right, hello Internet. So welcome to our final episode of season 3. I cannot believe we've been doing this for 3 years. So we're here back at Spaceport Central, otherwise known as Fred's house, and I wanted to go over with you some stuff that I had done to the Airstream this year. And by way of a little story here, over a year ago, I had mentioned on our Airstream MTB blog that I was accepted to the Airstream Customer Council. I was really excited about it. I didn't blog or vlog about it at all because basically everything that went on in there was basically covered by non-disclosure, which is kind of disappointing. Essentially what the Airstream Customer Council is it's a consumer research arm that Airstream kind of spun up to talk directly to consumers. And what's interesting about it is they hooked us up directly with like Bob Wheeler, who's the CEO, and we had multiple sessions with them. Most of them were over Zoom. They also gave us some surveys and stuff to fill out. But the point is, the reason I was really excited about the ACC, not only was I able to give my direct feedback directly to the people at Airstream that invent these things, the final ACC meeting was supposed to be on site in Jackson Center, Ohio, where I could see these things being made. And then coronavirus came. And so all that got shut down. But I decided to go anyway. I had a whole bunch of work that I wanted to get done in the Airstream. These things rattle down the road. They're like a magnitude 7 earthquake running around in there while you're towing them, and they shake themselves apart. You back them into things, all kinds of stuff happens. And so I wanted to take the chance that maybe if we got to Ohio, I would be able to get in anyway. That turned out not to be the case. So I am going to show you right now as I speak, I'm going to show you some of the fleeting footage that I got of the customer service area there at Airstream. But we got a bunch of stuff done. And I will flash up for you at the end of this video. I'm going to give you the final price. You can see how much I paid. Although it may shock you as, oh my God, that's a lot of money. Keep in mind when you play back in your head, which you just saw in this video, like all the stuff that I got done. I thought the price was very fair for everything that we got done on the Airstream. And I feel like now when we walk through everything that we had done, I feel like the Airstream is now better than it ever was new. It is the best it's ever been with new updates to it. Everything's working like it should. I almost never have been able to tick every box about what's working on the Airstream. Everything right now is working, and it's the best it's ever been. So let's walk through everything I had done in Jackson Center, and then maybe we'll put a little Easter egg at the end about what it was like in Ohio. So here we go. Okay guys, first thing, anybody who had a really close look at my Airstream would have noticed that there was a dent in my Airstream. I dented the rock guard almost right away within the first year of owning the Airstream. And yeah, I left it there because I kind of wanted to remind myself not to get cocky, because I had thought I had pretty much become an expert backer-upper, and boy was I not. I actually jackknifed the Airstream at low speed, but I was paying attention to something else and dented the rock guard. So yeah, this is a brand new rock guard. Because I was annoyed and tired of looking at the dent, I finally feel like I had punished myself enough. And so this is the first thing we had done. We got a new rock guard. All right, the next thing we had done while we were in Jackson Center, Ohio, is one of my favorite pet peeves about the Airstream is this stuff. This is the chrome Beltline molding that I think is so distinctive for the Airstream. And you can see that there's kind of two sets of it. There's this fat stuff and there's this skinny stuff here. And I think Fred and I have speculated that maybe it's Arizona, it's the heat, but this stuff does tend to debond, and when it debonds, it always seems to be on the road. So you get out after a tow and you find this stuff flapping around. And I did discover that it's not too hard to reaffix. I learned from the Loloho YouTube channel that you can glue it back on pretty effectively with gasket adhesive. The downside is I have also discovered that because this usually seems to fall off while you're towing and it's flopping around, it seems to sort of damage the really nice luster, and it'll leave these little crinkle marks wherever it's folded back. So I actually just told them I want it all replaced. It's just 'cause that's the kind of person I am. I wanted it to look nice. And so now we have a nice new run of chrome Beltline molding, and I'm not under any illusions. I'm pretty confident that you know, probably over the next 5 years it'll peel off again. But that's a thing about, you know, RVs are just like homes. They need maintenance, and so this is one of the items that was bugging me, and now she's pretty again. All right, the next thing that we had done in Jackson Center is something again that probably wouldn't bug most people, but it bugged me, which is I noticed over the years that we've had the Airstream that these indicators started to fog over, and I don't know why it bugged me, but maybe because I'm an engineer, not sure, but they didn't look like they did when they were new. And so I didn't have the wherewithal to take a before and an after video, unfortunately, but basically these entire panels turned opaque. And so what I learned in Jackson Center is that you can't just replace the lenses are not replaceable. You have to do the entire assembly, which is unfortunate. So it comes with the LED assembly and the whole package and the mounting kit and everything. And so they do have to pop these out and rewire them and pigtail them. So, but we did end up having, I think it was a grand total of somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 of these things replaced all over the Airstream. So now they're bright and clear like they were when they were new. Next thing we're going to talk about is wheels. So when I bought the Airstream, I asked the salesman, I see that these wheels have a label on them that say never lube bearings. So how long until I have to lube those never lube bearings? And the salesman laughed and he said, well, it's 5 years or 30,000 miles, something roughly in that neighborhood. So when I got to Airstream, I showed them the wheels and I told them that story, and they said, you're supposed to repack those bearings every year. And I'm like, but? He's like, no, every year. I'm like, but? I said, nope, every year. So you heard it from me, folks. I talked to the service guy at Airstream's customer service center, and they told me repack once a year. So we had the bearings repacked while we were there, and while they're at it, we noticed that the tire wear, we'd put in somewhere, because there's no odometer on trailers, but somewhere between 30 and 40,000 miles on this trailer. And these are LT light pickup truck tires. So we noticed that the tires are pretty much ready to go. So we put a new set on here. I really like this new set because the tread pattern's a little more aggressive. I don't know why I like that. Airstreams are super low to the ground, but so it has a better tread pattern. So we got new tires put on in addition to lubing the bearings. And finally, this is something else that is interesting to me. They can do alignments at the service center there in Jackson Center. It turned out that the trailer did not need an alignment, but they told us, they're like, yeah, Val Axle will tell you that they can't align those axles, but evidently they can. However, when they did their test, we did not need the alignment, but we did have it tested. See that squiggly little sucker up there? That's the FM radio antenna. Now, we almost never listen to FM radio. However, one day I just noticed it was gone. I don't think we hit anything. Pretty sure it just dry rotted. So had a new FM antenna put on there. All right, we're all masked up in here, guys, because COVID times and Fred's doing the filming, so being safe. The next thing that I had done in Jackson Center is we've been having a lot of trouble with delamination of a lot of the shelving. And so I'll show you here. Right here on this this cabinet area, this entire inside of the laminate bulged out, was creating kind of this blister. And so the folks there at Airstream bonded it, and then up inside here, you can't see it with phone, but there is now an L bracket in here, similar to what Fred and I had actually done inside the shelf, the master closet here a couple years ago. And so that prevents this area from separating during transport. So they fixed that shelf up good as new. Next interior thing I had done is I was sitting in the Airstream this summer in Silverton. I heard a big bang. A bang! Looking around, what was that? Well, what I discovered is on the inside of this master bedroom sort of shelf here, it's very Airstreamy. The shelf kind of comes up like this. It comes up at an angle. So they have molded a piece of wood and placed it inside the shelf to give it that rounded Airstream aesthetic. Well, it turns out that that shelf snapped and it ran a crack all the way from here, all the way over there. And I contacted Airstream, and they said that was not mechanically compromised. It's the outer part of the shelf that provides the mechanical integrity. That inner lining was really for looks. So we talked about it when I got to Jackson Center, and they said if they replaced that piece as is and simply replicated it, it would do exactly the same thing. And so their recommendation was simply to cover it, to place a piece of felt over it. So we'll show you here. We've got a piece of decorative felt that covers the entire bottom of the shelf. It's still like it was, but it has been covered. It's something that drove me crazy when I first got the Airstream, and continued to drive me crazy for 4 years, is every time I'd hop on this bench, which is my office when I'm working here, it would make this terrible, terrible crunching noise. And then after a couple of years, I started to discover screws after we towed. So what I discovered is that the far end of this bench is actually anchored to the Airstream skin with a couple of just an L bracket. So one screw. And so that provided this high leverage pivot point, right? And what was happening is every time I jumped on that cushion, which was, dozens of times a day for years, it worked that L bracket back and forth until the screw is basically stripped. It pulled straight through the skin. So what they did while we were at Jackson Center is they put a continuous piece of aluminum L bracket, not just an L bracket, but actually, like angle, all the way along, and then actually riveted it. So how appropriate. So now when you hop on this thing, it's rock solid. Another oddity of when we bought the Airstream was the strangely loud pump. The pump itself seemed loud, the pipes seemed loud, and we even had been talking to some other folks we'd met on the road that had Airstreams that had talked about that. So I brought it up to the Jackson Center folks, and what they did is they chased down all the PEX plumbing that goes throughout the trailer, placed some foam around it, and we also decided that that the pump was running abnormally loud anyway. And so we have a brand new pump, and we have a bunch of quieting foam that has been placed throughout the trailer. It's still loud when it's priming, but that's only a few seconds when you first move into the trailer, and then for the next 5 months, at least when we're in it, she is silent and quiet, and for once, you're not getting that rat-a-tat-tat as that pump is going. One of those things that happens when you tow is stuff just comes loose, right? For some reason, our toilet decided it wanted to be a clock. It started to turn. So over the months, it was turned somewhat to the 1 o'clock position. I did not want to attack that myself because I didn't want to loosen up the toilet and then not be able to get it back. So another oddity about our Airstream is ever since we bought it, the air conditioning has never quite worked right. In fact, we did have 2 hard fails. We lost the Zone 2 air conditioner immediately upon purchase. I think it was 2 or 3 days after we bought the Airstream that the air conditioner died. We lost it again about a year later. So I believe that's, if we count it, the original air conditioner, the replacement. So 3 air conditioners. And another oddity that we've always experienced is the air conditioner, neither zone quite held temperature properly. The Zone 2 especially short-cycled a lot. And this happened even in extremely high temperatures, like in the hundreds here in Arizona. On, off, on, off. And so when Airstream serviced this in Jackson Center, they told me they discovered that it had been wired wrong at the factory. I don't understand the specifics. I didn't have time to dig into it with the tech, but they said that the Zone 2 had been wired through Zone 1, And so my impression is it might have been reading temperature from zone 1 instead of zone 2 that whole time, which would be why it's short cycling, because zone 1, which is the bedroom area here, always gets colder much quicker. So we did come back to Arizona in the fall here, and it was still quite hot. I got to run it for 3 days in near 100 temperatures, and does seem to be fixed. You ready for the cursed shower? This is one of those other items that never worked right when we bought the Airstream almost 5 years ago now. The problem we have with the shower was leaking. It would always leak down here. And also the problem we had is that the shower door would get in a position where it either wouldn't open, or when you opened it, it would shear off the little seal at the bottom that's supposed to keep it from leaking. So we had it serviced a couple of times while the Airstream is under warranty, and they never quite did figure it out. When we were at Jackson Center, the most amazing thing happened. The tech realized that this panel had been installed upside down. And so when this panel is upside down, it traps all the water because it has two flanges like this which fit onto the mounted wood. And so there was no weeping ports, there's nowhere for the water to go. Never crossed my mind in a million years, and I looked at that thing a million times, right? So this required an entire replacement kit. We now have the bottom portion of this shower installed right side up, and it does allow the water out, and I can attest to the fact that it no longer leaks. And it came with a new shower door, a proper seal under the door, and finally, Airstream makes a modification to this shower when they install it, which is this little plastic block here. This plastic block gives this door, which is quite heavy, something to ride on as you continuously open and close it, and during transport. And it prevents this door from sinking. And that sinking ultimately prevents the door from ripping off the seal when you open and close it. And so now, for the first time in almost 5 years since we've had this Airstream, this shower works properly. Oh, my favorite topic, appliances. Boo. You guys may have noticed in our episode from Oregon this summer that we were having a lot of trouble with the stove. I learned to hate that Atwood stove. I reviled that stove. I wish that stove was in a dump. And now it is, yes. So without covering all the problems we had with it, I can just say that it basically rattled itself to pieces, and it was poor quality. So I ordered up a new stove while we were in Jackson Center. And so we picked out this Furrion. And so one of the things I really like about it is you can use it as a nightlight, because this blue is really quite appealing. And also that can turn on the light inside the oven here. And another recurring problem that we have with this stove habitually is that the old stove wouldn't light. This one lights properly now. And it's also, I feel, aesthetically much more consistent with the Airstream. You can see that it's mostly sort of an aluminum colored stainless steel. And the top of the stove folds flush, so you can use it as counter space if you want to. And has this very, very nice sort of a glass backsplash that appears when you fold it up. Also, I should point out that what I'm really impressed with is, unlike the Atwood, the burners are very, very stable. So they're not easily disturbed, which we would find our burners popped off all the time on the previous stove during a tow. So I'm very, very happy with the stove. Another thing I should say, the other stove burned really hot. Like, I know that's a strange thing to say, but this doesn't, it's not meant to be a blowtorch, right? And so this stove is calm. It doesn't burn quite as hot as the other one. The flames aren't quite as big, and that's worked out really well for us. So while I was getting the stove replaced, we also noticed on the road that every time we turned on our vent hood, it made this horrible screeching, whinging noise. And so while we were at Jackson Center, we also paired it up with a new vent hood. One thing I like about this vent hood is it's an LED light as opposed to the old incandescent bulbs. And we had a lot of trouble with those bulbs coming loose, and so you'd kind of have to tap the vent hood to get the lights to come on. And of course, it doesn't whinge anymore. It actually works. So we have a brand new vent hood. We have a brand new stove. And another curiosity about our trip this summer. Yeah, our microwave just stopped working. We noticed one day it was taking 8 minutes to boil a cup of water. So I ordered up a new microwave. And what I really like about this microwave is the old microwave had a black cowl around it. This one has a matching sort of a stainless steel, somewhat aluminum appearance to it. So they put on a new cowl. And then they put in this Contour. It's a convection microwave. So you can apparently you can cook vegetables and cookies and do all kinds of stuff that you can bake. So apparently Fred is somewhat of an accomplished convection cooker too, so I'm going to get some recipes from him. And now we have a beautiful working microwave, and also this is like a 1,000-watt microwave. So we've also noticed, unlike the smaller Danby that we had before, this microwave is much more powerful and cooks faster. So you want to know what's really awesome when you're RVing and it's, let's say, middle of the night, somebody goes to get a snack out of your refrigerator, which happens to be right here. What's really awesome is when the propane detector decides to go off, when somebody opens and closes the fridge. And after a while, you begin to realize that sometimes if you have something with a lot of garlic in it, and it's in the fridge, that garlic can set off your propane detector. And then you begin to discover that propane detector is going off all the time. It'll go off whenever you clean the trailer with, say, alcohol wipes. It becomes very, very, very frustrating. This device is incredibly loud and screechy, impossible to ignore, and it terrifies our dogs and terrifies us. So I did ask the Jackson Center service folks to take a look at it. We actually forgot to have a conversation about this. I actually didn't even notice, even though I'd asked them to look at it, it has been replaced. And they told me they go through some sort of a procedure to determine if it needs to be replaced. I don't know what that procedure was. However, it is new. And we can attest to the fact of after getting this put in, it does not seem that the trailer goes off anymore because you're opening your refrigerator door. So storage is a thing in Airstreams. You can see here that we have some storage underneath the kitchen benches here, some under the couch, there's some in the bedroom. Over the years, we have noticed that as we have taken this Tupperware in and out, that it just starts to look gungy and gross. Yes, I could have gone probably to Walmart, and yes, I probably could have measured something. While we were in Jackson Center, however, I requested those guys just supply me with whatever they're putting in their Airstreams these days, because I know it'll fit, and I know it's their spec part. Again, not something most people would probably do, but we did. So we have all new storage boxes in the entire Airstream. So you guys might be wondering, after everything I've shown you, what was the price? So drum roll please. $8,900, and that included tax. So is that a lot of money? Basically $9,000. Hell yeah, it is. Is that a lot of money if you think about that? That's over basically 5 years of needing these repairs on the Airstream. It includes all the labor. It includes all the Airstream source parts. This work done at the place where the Airstreams are invented. Plus new microwave, new vent hood, new stove, new tires. I think that was a hell of a deal. So I feel $9,000, nice round number there, I feel was an incredibly reasonable number. And for one of the few times that I've had my Airstream service now, where all the service stuff is working, it's all fixed, nothing has come back, and I'm delighted with the quality of the work that they did there. So for $9 grand, we basically have a brand new Airstream. Nice little remodel there. I have telling Fred that one of the things about running a YouTube channel I have found is there's a certain phenomenon, I call it YouTube fatigue. After a while, I begin to get really, really weary setting up cameras and taking shots. And the trip out to Ohio wasn't originally planned as part of our summer trip, so we ended up setting it up with Airstream. I used my clout with the ACC to get a slot, and we ended up yumping across the country there. We drove from Denver all the way, through Kansas and Illinois and Indiana, popped into Ohio there, and what I could not believe is we were only about 15 miles from my Airstream, and we were staying at a KOA. I'm like, this just can't be right. There's nothing here. There's literally like cornfields. And then the next morning came for me to actually take the Airstream in. It's pitch black, and I'm just hurtling through space, the pitch of night, just me and the headlights, just going through these cornfields, and I just keep thinking this can't be right. Why would they have a factory here? And then out of nowhere you blossom into Jackson Center, which is this teeny tiny little hamlet, just a few buildings, and then a couple of factories. Right, and Airstream is one of them. And walk into, suddenly there's all these lights pulled into their area there at the service center, and Airstream's as far as your eye can see. And I do have some regrets and sadness that it just the coronavirus really jacked that trip. The factory tours were closed. The even the fleeting footage I was able to get when I was in the service center itself, I just had a few seconds to grab a quick shot here and there. So it amazes me. I did talk to some of the folks that work there, and I'm like, where do you all live? This is truly the middle of nowhere. And he said that most of the employees have at least a 45-minute commute, and they come in from the north, from the south, from Dayton. So anyway, I have no idea why they decided to put their factory where they did. It's amazing. It's like finding a spaceport out in the middle of a cornfield, but there you go. And we've got the best service I've ever had.